Good morning. It is such a pleasure to see all of you here today, and I'd also like to greet and welcome all of our friends and family members who are also joining us virtually today. We're live streaming this, and so it's just great to have so many people together today that I hope is a day really to celebrate our college. Typically when you come together for an address like this, it's really typical to have an opportunity to hear about some of the ideas for how to change the college. And even when we think that change is a really good idea, because we recognize that we might need to do some things differently, that the world is changing, it's still hard. In fact, studies have shown that people have a very reliable and tangible preference for things that have been around for a really long time. Researchers have identified that humans have a tendency to genuinely believe, often on an unconscious level, that when you've been doing something a particular way for some period of time, then that must be the good way to do things. And the longer you've been doing it that way, the better it is. So change isn't simply about embracing something unknown. It's about giving up something old, which our minds often tell us is therefore good, for something new, and we're wired to assume perhaps not as good. But here's the interesting thing about our work. The land-grant university was created on the concept of change. Those early educators and researchers weren't researching and teaching practices that had already been around for hundreds of years, but new ideas, different techniques, and innovative practices. If you believe in science, if you believe in learning, then you believe in the importance of change. Discovering what should change, teaching others about it, pushing on change to see what's next that should be changed, change really is our thing. I pointed out at Farm Science Review this year that our early extension professionals even understood how uncomfortable we adults can get with change, and that provided the foundation for us to create the 4-H program, because they recognized that youth are just a little bit more willing to be the early adopters. And 4-H, with its model of learning by doing, figured prominently in the success of adoption of hybrid seed corn, cotton growing techniques, and other tech transfer from our land-grant universities, which revolutionized agriculture and the food system. So today I'm going to talk about a few of the changes that we're working on within our college. But before I do that, I want to thank a few people. And I'd like to start by thanking and recognizing Senator Bob Hackett and Senator Stephanie Kunze. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your support of our college all year long. I'd also like to thank all of the public officials from the state and from the counties who are great partners of ours. I'd like to thank our alumni, our donors, our stakeholders who have been partners in everything we do. And it's been such a pleasure of mine over the last year to get to know so many of them. It's true that the engagement of all of these partners is not only appreciated, but essential to our success. I'd also like to thank my fellow leaders within our administration. And I'd like to ask that any members of the cabinet, our chairs, or our directors would stand at this moment to be recognized. This is there they are. Thank you. This is a group who work hard on behalf of our entire community, often with little acknowledgement, and I've enjoyed getting to know these dedicated leaders during this past year. Our college is definitely in good hands. And most importantly today, I'd like to take a moment to thank our faculty, our staff, and our students, all part of this great college. Your talent, your determination, and your passion inspire me daily. It's also a bit of a tradition to provide a listing of accomplishments or celebrations in a talk like this. And I have to tell you that I really struggled when I got to thinking about this part of the address, because when I started to gather up all of the accomplishments and celebrations, I realized we would all have to be here until about 7 p.m. this evening for me to get through everything, and I had a feeling a few of you might not stick around that whole time. Our accomplishments really are too numerous for me to give full and due service to, so I'm hoping that I can give you a few exemplars here at the outset and then maybe mention a few as I go through my address this morning, with apologies to those who don't get mentioned here. We celebrate your work nonetheless. So let me focus on a few. First of all, thank you. We set a new record this last year with our fundraising. Just over $31 million came into the college, and I'd like to thank our faculty, our staff, our students, and being led by our advancement team in Andy Gerd. Thank you all for your work, and thank you to our donors. Please help me to thank all those people. I'd like to mention that when you see that total of just over 31 million, I want to help you understand how we used that. Just over 12 million of that went directly to support of research. About 2 million went to student financial aid. Just about 8 million was unrestricted, that allows our college to support emerging priorities and capitalize on unexpected opportunities, which I'll be talking about today. Another celebration that we have is that we just finished the centennial celebration of our Ag Communications, Education, and Leadership Department, and what a great way to wrap it up with moving into a newly renovated suite. We're delighted for the students and the faculty and staff of that department. Great space. While you're on campus sometime, I encourage you to go by and take a tour. I'm confident they will enjoy showing it off to you. I'd also like to acknowledge that this year we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the School of Environment and Natural Resources, with lots of events throughout the course of the year celebrating that. We also this year had several significant faculty awards in the multi-million-dollar range from NIH, NSF, FFAR, and NIFA, all important national funding entities supporting tremendous, groundbreaking research being done in this college. Speaking of groundbreaking, we also had a great event out on Waterman to launch our efforts out there at that facility with the groundbreaking of the Kunz Brundage Franklin County Extension Office. We're very grateful to Pat Brundage for her support that is allowing that building to come into being. Also, just a little bit more bragging, which I love when I am with my colleagues throughout the nation. For the second year in a row, Ohio won the National 4-H Raise Your Hand campaign, with more alumni supporting our 4-H program. We're just delighted by how much support, how much interest there is in that 4-H program. We also got the great news that FABE was ranked number 7th nationally, moving up into the top 10. We launched our Water Quality Task Force, and I'll be talking a little more about that, and there's also some handouts on your chair that were prepared by that group. And then we also had the great honor of having the 2017 AgriNaturalist named the top magazine produced by students. We're very proud of the work that the students did on that, so great to see that. These, of course, are great acknowledgement of our work, but they're really not quite the focus of our work. We celebrate, though, these things as indicators that we're directionally correct with our efforts. So what did we do this year? Well, we asked a lot of questions. And so some of those questions were about identifying our strengths and ensuring that we're using our resources effectively. We began questioning ways that we could streamline the way we work to free up resources. We engaged in significant planning efforts around Waterman, at the Worcester campus, around our international programs, and with workforce development. We began to explore ways to more fully engage with the people who are part of our college community. And so we got a few answers. One, how many people? You can see that our community is a pretty large community. One of the things we are really pleased to have there is the number of undergraduates we continue to serve. Our hope is to continue to grow that, particularly as we strengthen some of our connections with ATI up on the Worcester campus. In terms of our programs, we continue to have the 10 academic units, 22 majors, 31 minors, as well as the programs that are the 2-year programs up at ATI. In terms of research, we have just shy of 900 different projects going on, over 41 million in sponsored research, and other products of our research is listed there. For those of you who don't know where all we are, we have quite a bit of land that's part of the college. Just over 11,000 acres make up our 3 campuses, our Columbus campus, our Worcester campus, and our statewide campus that you can see in this map. That kind of brought me to the question, though, of what do we use it for? And so we also tracked down what all we're using it for. You can see that the vast majority of our land is used for cropland. Then you'll notice the big blue triangle there that says Other. That includes all of our facilities, it includes our roads, it includes pretty much everything else. And then you can see we have pasture, we have woodlands, and then there's a little strip there that would indicate to you the ponds that we also have as part of our land profile. Sometimes when I talk about this with some of the other deans, I see them kind of looking at me and questioning some of the things with land. What I find oftentimes happen is that they don't recognize that just like in some disciplines, it's important to have their laboratory, or in medicine, they need their operating rooms. We need these facilities for the science that we do, the research and the programs. They're just as key for us as any of those other facilities. I think several of you know that we spent some time tracking down how many animals we have. I'm happy to report we have over 45,000 animals. Yeah. The 45,000 are fish, poultry, beef, sheep, swine, dairy, equine, and goats. The vast majority of those would be the fish, over 30,000 number are fish. But not to be outdone, Carol and Ellie would not be happy if I also didn't point out that we have the 34 beehives, 11 bedbug strains, 163 individual colonies of the eastern subterranean termite, which if you don't know how big a colony is, that's actually hundreds of thousands of termites. And then we have quite a few black fly larvae. I couldn't get anybody to go count them. There's quite a few. We also, of course, continue to ask the question, how many people do we reach with Extension? Extension continues to have a very strong presence throughout the state, making quite a bit of impact. 1.5 million educational contacts, including 4-H. You can see there the number of 4-H youth we have. 22,000 4-H volunteers, though, working with those youth. That's a tremendous contribution from throughout our communities to our programs. You can also see there the importance of the recertification programs that we have in fertilizer applicators and in private pesticide applicators. And then FNEP, of course, focused on low-income families with food and nutrition programming. More than 25,000 families each year served with the FNEP program. Really quite an impact. We also spent some time this year asking what should be the priorities for Extension. We had about 4,000 people throughout the state who responded to surveys, giving us some direction of some of the things that they hoped we might focus ourselves around with Extension. And I think you'll hear some of those being reflected in what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I also continued what I referenced last year as my milkshake tour. That's one of the joys and perks of my job, is in the summer I get to go out to the county fairs and visit our communities, and you bet I always can stop and get a 4-H milkshake at those county fairs. But it's also a great opportunity to talk to a lot of people about our work, about what they hope for the future. And so in that milkshake tour, you can see I took a few friends with me too. One of the things that I found as I talked with our local officials, as I talked with our producers, as I talked with those 4-H volunteers and others throughout the state, is you could distill down all the advice they gave me into really one thing. And that is that their hope is that we will continue to be a vibrant, land-grant college. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time this morning and talk a little bit about what I think that means to be a land-grant, sort of what's the DNA of us being a land-grant college. And so here's a few things that I'm hoping we can focus our attention on. The first there is translational research, applying the findings from basic science to enhance knowledge, understanding, and decision-making in big systems, to be able to translate fundamental research into practice and meaningful outcomes. This was one of the original compacts of the land-grant university as it was created, to be able to do that. And we have some great examples of ways that we do that within this college. If we look at the work we're doing in functional foods to prevent cancer from recurring and eventually to prevent cancer, if we look at our work in precision agriculture, matching plant hybrids and varieties to soil landscapes, and if we look at the work of the newly launched Water Quality Task Force, gathering together a significant amount of work that this college had already been doing to provide research-based information around critical issues to Ohioans. Another part of our land-grant DNA is permeable boundaries, changing from we, they, to us. Whether within the university for our interdisciplinary work, whether with business and industry, NGOs, or other universities, enhancing our partnerships and shifting from project-based work to partnerships and consortia based on shared interests, values, and goals, and letting the projects emerge from common questions that we create together. Another important part of land-grant DNA that distinguishes the land-grant universities is not seeing students just as consumers of knowledge, but co-creators, fostering the student role and having them participate through immersion experiences and emphasis on leadership and engagement with the college. Another aspect of a land-grant is lifelong learning, engaging with individuals across the lifespan with their learning needs, whether reaching to the career exploration pipeline and preparation in K-12 or throughout the careers, even sometimes into retirement transition. And then finally, being future-oriented, having a perspective and a belief that the future can be better than the past, and investment and action to support future leaders, scientists, and professionals is key. It's also about seeking solutions that are not just short-term, that don't just get us through the next few years, but with an eye to long-term impacts and what conditions we create for those future generations. So in considering this DNA, what happened was we realized that it led us to more questions, and they were good questions, the what-ifs, such as, what if we had a digital cloud of expert-prepared content that could be used for a variety of needs, degrees, certificates, continuing education, and extension? What if our branch experiment stations became comprehensive research, extension, and teaching centers? What if our faculty could easily find collaborators? What if Lake Erie water quality issues were solved due to significant influence by our college? What if we became a model for the state and country in turning the urban-rural interface from a divide, which it sometimes is, to a trusted partnership? And what if students became lifelong learners and we were part of the reason? What if there was a greater understanding of agriculture, the food system, and our ecosystems among the public due to our efforts? And that, of course, then led us to the most important question I think that we asked, which is, how do we ensure that our college evolves as a thriving, modern, and relevant land-grant for the next 150 years? We're a little ambitious. So we got to thinking about that in order to do that, we're going to have to probably change a few things. And so we started by looking at how we could transform our college and get work done a little better. How could we get out of our own way in some instances? And so we really worked to try to start developing efficient, transparent, and consistent methods so internal and external partners could have an exceptional world-class experience with our college. And so we've been working to have highly effective and relevant practices that match what it is that we hope we can do. Identifying standards to create that transformation, creating clear pathways for our faculty, being able to support their work more easily with less process, and throughout all that, striving to be very straightforward and ensuring that the land-grant DNA is embedded in all that we create. I'd like to acknowledge the leadership, particularly of our administrative team of Terry Niblack, Graham Cochran, Dave Benfield, Eric Bodie, and Lori Bauman, and Lynette Arner, and their dedication to our systems, processes, and operations. All that stuff you think about as the back office, that when it's working great, nobody notices, but when it's not working great, everybody notices. This group has been focused on streamlining administration into functional units responsible for key actions. Our operations would be a great example of that, of bringing together all of our experiment and research stations, pulling all of our farm managers together so they can be more effective. Also completing our pattern of administration to get clarity around how we want to function. Developing and supporting systems to improve our internal communications and coordination. And then we've just launched, with the leadership of Dr. Chris Boone and Dr. David Benfield, the Worcester campus strategic planning underway with an eye on how we can unify that campus and really leverage the opportunities up on the Worcester campus for the future. We overhauled the college budget process in an attempt to become more transparent about how we use our resources, and we'll continue that this year. We launched an IT transformation process for all 3 of our campuses, serving as a pilot within the university with an eye to the future and the importance of using the digital technology and what it would take to be able to protect and support what we needed to do. And then a lot of time focused on how can we build standard operating procedures and clearer standards so that instead of having to duplicate effort, we could become more streamlined. We also began to focus then on what I consider our flywheel. A flywheel is really how you can increase momentum and how you can store energy. And that's how I think about these things. This is what will increase our momentum. It's what provides stability and allows us to deliver with more consistency. The first one there, of course, is refresh our infrastructure. With a lot of deferred maintenance, we have great need throughout our entire enterprise to focus on how we can transform the physical environment in all of our facility locations so that it supports and inspires our work as well as improves the way we work. The facility plans will create new opportunities, nurture our dynamic and diverse community, strengthen collaboration, and communicate our commitment to land-grant mission and values. On your chair, besides the information from water quality, there's also a little bit of an update on some of the projects because there's so many going on right now. Again, I really can't list them all out, but I do want to give you a few highlights. One of the things that I want to point out is that in this year, whether just in design, under construction right now, or just completed, we have about $100 million worth of capital projects going on. The even better news is that $75 million of that is already paid for. And we're very appreciative for all the partners who have made that the reality. Some of the things that we've taken up, you can see on that report, but also they included things like the tornado recovery on our Worcester campus from our most recent tornado. Facility inventories and condition reports so that we could start to prioritize better. The renovation that I mentioned of our ASIL suite, a renovation of a leadership suite in ag administration that not only houses our government relations and our diversity and inclusion in our facilities, but it also has space for those faculty and staff who may be out at either the statewide campus or the Worcester campus, so when they come to Columbus, we have a place for them to be able to sit down and have an office and then participate with their partners. We also renovated Howlett Hall Labs for entomology and food science. I think that a number of you know of the work that we're doing with Waterman. and the importance of creating those facilities there on that property. The Franklin County Extension Building, which will serve as our extension, education, and a welcome center, the Controlled Environment Food Production Research Complex, and the Multi-Species Learning Center. We have a new science building planned for Worcester. We're very appreciative to the legislature for that support, as well as for their support for lab renovations up at Stone Lab. We also are working on a beef production and teaching facility up at Worcester, the farm ops facility up there as well, which will help us to better coordinate the work we're doing there. And most importantly, in the coming year, our focus will be on creating a master plan that guides our priorities around the facilities. The reality is we will always be doing work on our infrastructure. We'll never be done with that work, and so planning for that is an important part of going forward. As we focus on refreshing our infrastructure, it's particularly important for our faculty, staff, students, and stakeholders with an interest in livestock, horses, and companion animals. In this area, we really need modernized facilities and the land base. And so I wanted to just talk briefly about two properties because I know they've been in the news a little bit and I've heard some different variations of what's going on, so I just wanted to share with people. The first is about the sale of our Case Road property, which is known as our sheep farm, up near the OSU airport in Columbus. That particular property, we have a contract and are moving through the final stages with the city of Columbus. We will receive just over $5 million from the sale, which we will then reinvest in facilities for animal sciences. We'll be vacating that property by June 2019. Some of what I heard was that people were concerned that perhaps the city had not given us the full price or the full worth of that property. That's not the case. We did get the full appraised value for that particular property. I've also had some questions about, does that mean that we're not committed to sheep, that we're not committed to our livestock enterprises? And again, that's not true either. What we're trying to do is consolidate and be efficient so that we can make sure that we have as modern a facilities as we possibly can. There'll be lots more opportunity to give us feedback and to interact with us around the direction we're going with both the Multi-Species Learning Center and other ways that we're going to be trying to address the needs of our industry. I also wanted to mention the pasture property at Ackerman and Kinney, which is just across from Waterman. It's about 12 acres there, and you may have heard that we've agreed to transfer that property to Wexner Medical Center for a new central sterilization facility that they'll be building there. The timeline and other details are still being negotiated, but we felt that was an important way for us to connect with Wexner to support their work and to also preserve the footprint of Waterman facility. As I mentioned, during the course of this next year in the development of our master plan, we'll be doing a deep dive, really taking a look at how we create linkages across all of our animal facilities across all of our campuses. So stay tuned. There'll be plenty of opportunities to give us feedback and participate with us on those. A second part of our flywheel is to recruit, secure, and retain talent. This is really critical for us to design and advance talent practices that support our college in being a great organization to work with and for. Using that lens of our land-grant DNA, we hope to partner with internal and external communities to attract, coach, motivate, develop, retain, and support our top talent that is engaged, prepared, and able to deliver on our grand challenges. This last year, we added 30 new faculty to our college. Just last night, I was at our faculty recognition program for the university, congratulating a number of our faculty who this last year achieved tenure and their promotion. It's terrific to see them advancing in their careers. We also this year got to welcome 2 members of the cabinet that were important because it helped fills out what I call the mission leadership team. So joining our Associate Dean Roger Rennenkamp, Associate Dean for Extension, as one of those members of the mission leadership team, we added Gary Pierzninski as our Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Education, and our Associate Dean Steve Neal in academic programs. And I'm delighted to have the 3 of them leading the important area focused on our mission. So thank you all for your leadership. We also have 2 chair searches underway that are going very well, and I'm very appreciative to the search committees working, both plant pathology and the agricultural, environmental, and developmental economics departments. We're down to interviewing finalists, and we're confident we're going to end up with terrific additions to our leadership team from those searches. We've also spent some time with a focus on our 3 areas of scholarship: research, teaching, and extension. I'm appreciative to Cheryl Behringer, Chair of Food Science and Technology, who, on top of everything else she's doing, has accepted a special assignment in the Dean's office to work with us on promotion and tenure in our scholarship. And Cheryl, thank you for taking that extra assignment. We have a tremendous amount of honors and awards, and like I said, I really can't do full justice to our faculty, but I did want to give you a highlight of just a couple. Dr. Ratan Lal was named as the 2018 World Agricultural Prize recipient, and we're very proud of the work that he does in soil science. Dr. Annie Specht and Dr. Joy Rumble received awards from the Association of Communication Excellence. Dr. Dennis Heldman received the 2018 Nicholas Appert Award from the Institute of Food Technologists. And Dr. Ahmed Dami and student Thomas Todero in the OSU Viticulture program received an award for development of extension materials and communications. That's just a few small samples of the types of things that our faculty are recognized for, and we're so proud of all of them and what they do. As part of the scholarship, we are also part of the university's teaching incentive program, trying to really focus on how we can support our faculty with their teaching and have opportunities for them to enhance their skills. All of our faculty are eligible then for the teaching incentive program by participating in different activities intended to enhance their skills. They can also increase their base salary. So we encourage our faculty to take advantage of that. I do want to mention that when this was first announced, the university didn't recognize that extension faculty should be part of it. We advocated quite strongly about the instruction provided by extension throughout the state, and I really want to give credit to Mike Hogan, extension faculty member, but also the faculty council chair, for his advocacy in ensuring then that our extension faculty also get to participate and be eligible for the teaching incentive program. So great work, Mike. We're also working to strengthen our faculty council, and I want to thank Dr. Melvin Pascal, Dr. Robert Gates, and Dr. Lyda Garcia, who are all here today. Thank you for being here, for their work in representing the faculty. I look forward to continuing to working with you all on strengthening the faculty council. I also want to make mention of our multidisciplinary work. We are a unique college in having a tremendous amount of leadership for the discovery themes across the university. We have 3 faculty leads for discovery themes. Casey Hoy with the Initiative for Food and Agricultural Transformation, Elena Irwin with Sustainable and Resilient Economy, and we have one of the 3 co-leaders for Foods for Health in Devin Peterson. So some great connections for us with the discovery themes. Another part of our flywheel, of course, is to engage students. I mentioned that part of the DNA of a land grant is students as co-creators. And so we want to continue to find ways to engage our students in meaningful experiences to gain skills necessary to lead and be successful in our college as well as when they leave here. My hope is that we can advance opportunities within the college for students to also be part of the work of the college through undergraduate research, significant leadership roles, and meaningful experiences in actually leading the college. In fact, there's a team of students creating the structure and campaign to celebrate our sesquicentennial. I'm delighted to be working with Erin, Mariah, Mary-Kate, Josie, and Haley as they're putting together the campaign that we all will get to celebrate. We're also staying very focused on student success. I'd like to acknowledge the great work of our entire academic programs team. They work tirelessly to think about ways to support and engage our students. We continue to have one of the best records in the university at our college. We're often looked to as a model. Some of the highlights I can give you of that is that 3 out of 4 of our freshmen have scholarships. Half of our ATI students come to us as first-generation college students and go on to great success. A quarter of ATI students are also low income, and we have a number of programs intended to put additional support under them. Half of our students have an international study abroad experience and yet continue to be able to graduate in 4 years. And 93% of our students graduate with not only their diploma, but a job or already accepted into professional schools within 6 months of graduation. Those are great success records for our college. We're also doing a lot of work in partnership with our student council in the dean's office. I'd like to acknowledge Steve Speck, the president of our student council. He unfortunately could not be here today because there was something about an interview at Cargill that he thought was higher priority than being here, and I agreed with him. So we wish him well with that interview. The last part of our flywheel there is to engage communities. We will work to engage and integrate more with all aspects of our college with our community partners. So our programming, our research, and our core business through relationships, decisions, policies, and practices. I'd like to acknowledge the Vice President's Advisory Council that we started this last year. We appreciate the time that a number of our partners give and the great advice that they give as we work on a number of key initiatives within the college. We'll also then, in just a few weeks, be launching our partnerships unit. That unit will be focused on strategic partnerships and facilitating the relationships between our partners throughout the state and nation and our faculty and staff within the college. As part of that unit, not only will we have those focused on building those relationships and providing the support to faculty, but we'll also have a focus on workforce development and gaining more opportunities for our students around workforce development issues and immersion experiences. So given all that, what must we do? Well, there are several things that we need to do, and the first is continue our focus. Last year I talked about our grand challenges as our focus and the 4 key areas that we want to make sure we're working in. We'll continue to design a roadmap that intensifies and amplifies our work in this area: the sustaining life, One Health, rural-urban interface, and preparing the next generation of scientists and leaders. We also have to do a better job of communicating. We have very complex issues and research findings related to those grand challenges, and so we have to really think about what are the clear and engaging ways that we can make sure we're communicating, leading to improved understanding by the public, media, alumni, elected officials, and others outside of our disciplines. We have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're engaging members of the public regarding issues relevant to the food system, agriculture, and the environment. We also need to build some effective and useful tools, platforms, process improvements, and practices that make it easier to work with and for our college. We need to find better ways to effectively engage with producers and partners to provide research, technology, data solutions, and knowledge to ensure viable agricultural and food production and safety. A really good example of that is this Friday when our Ag and Environmental and Development Economics Department will host the Agricultural Policy and Outlook Conference with a focus on trade. We also need to create the best user experiences of accessing and utilizing modern, innovative digital tools, platforms, and channels, including the content. Some examples of that are some of our recent apps. If you're worried about those bed bugs I mentioned earlier, our new Bed Bugs app will help you identify and prevent bed bugs when you might be in that hotel for your next stay. You can download it. Feel free to help yourself to that. We also have a new app on field application resource monitoring, and we have a new app on Food Keeper that focuses on food safety and how long you should really keep those leftovers after Thanksgiving. We also need to develop and implement processes to leverage knowledge and data to support continuous learning within our college and the communities with whom we work. And finally, what we need to do is to strengthen leadership. In partnership, we have to develop frameworks and standards for purpose-driven leadership development throughout our sectors and implement a portfolio of leadership programs that support our work and contribute to our impact in the grand challenges within our communities and internationally. Within Extension this past year, we've been working to realign, and so you can see that Extension has amplified those areas within the 6 impact areas that were identified as part of Extension's redesign as well. And so here's what's coming. We are seeking to anchor the Waterman Laboratory as a Grand Challenges-focused facility, establishing it as a center for our college's science and public engagement. We're establishing leadership within the Controlled Environment Research area as well as part of that effort. A second thing that we're working on is around knowledge and data, and we call it the knowledge exchange, changing the way that our research is communicated, understood, and utilized. We're building an integrated team of researchers, data scientists, and communicators who can work together to respond to needs, highlight relevant research, and help us create that cloud that then our entire community can access that information. I want to thank Tim Hab, who is chair of our AEDE department, who has also taken on a special assignment helping to lead this particular effort. In workforce development, we're developing and coordinating educational training and certificate programs across the lifespan and seeking to engage 4-H in a broader focus on career explorations, so that as that young person works on a project that they fall in love with, what if we could help them to see all of the varieties of careers that exist that they could pursue because of that interest? Chris Boone and John Foltz are leading a workforce development task force right now to help us identify some of the directions we can go in this area. Around the leadership area, Dr. Tracy Kitchell is leading a new partnership that we've established with the Fisher College of Business to design and implement a tailored portfolio of leadership programs and experiences that we hope will recruit, enhance, and support leaders throughout the food, agricultural, and environmental systems. And then finally, with our Grand Challenges translational research, we've had this great pilot on water quality to transition our practices around how we can get time to results. And I want to thank the Water Quality Task Force and the leadership of Dr. Doug Jackson Smith as we've worked to do that. I recognize that not many people get the opportunity that I enjoy every single day. I get to work and I immediately get to do a whole variety of activities that are all about creating the context and opportunity for a tremendous group of talented people, our faculty, our staff, our students, our partners, to do some of the best work of their lives. Daily, I think about what will come of this work, the potential that this college and each of you have to impact the future, the impact throughout their careers of the scientists and leaders that we have educated and prepared here, and what that will mean for our state, our country, our world. At our college, we aspire to not only prepare our students and partners with knowledge and experience, but also with great optimism and a belief that things in the future will be better. We do this so each of you will seek great and noble things to invest yourselves in. Things that matter, as big as curing diseases, feeding the growing population, mitigating climate change, addressing inequality, or as local as giving a handful of people a sense of meaning, purpose, knowledge. Simply put, our college, the cornerstone college of The Ohio State University, and its 3 campuses, is dedicated to one mission: we sustain life. Thank you.